multiple topics that you will be covering. For example, in this paper, you will be learning about leadership, you will be learning about governance, you will be learning about strategy, you will be learning about risk and internal control systems, you will be learning about technology, e-commerce, like cybersecurity. You will be learning about the different developments which are happening in technology, for example, cloud computing, or we talk about AI. Then the other topics which are part of this paper is about process management, about project management, about change management. Okay, and there are many theories and models which discuss like the change management topics. And then there is finance, the finance for strategy. Basically, this paper is very comprehensive. There is so much that we will be discussing, that we will be learning. But the important thing is that we have to make sure that we are learning in this right now, the global economy, that all that learning is relevant to this shifting landscape in the global economy. So that's why that's a very important, first of all, for you to know that what type of shifts are happening. There are so many variables are changing. There are so many like the factors are impacting right now the global economy. So we can discuss a few of those. For example, first of all, we can talk about, let's say, okay, I would ask you, first of all, to what do you think? What are the critical factors that are shaping the global economy, or what type of shifts are underway in the global economy? So we can start from you. Okay, so I would request Pravesh. Pravesh, what do you think? The shifts, the major changes which are happening in the global economy.
Major changes for me is regarding the AI. Many
Okay.
companies are adopting this strategy in mainly most of their different departments, and accounting is also being in it. And we also have the rise of emerging social medias such as TikTok, influencers, and we are also being impacted by changes in government, the tariff regime by Trump, and unfortunately, those conflicts around countries going on, around wars and etc. Uh, Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I would request Ramasai, what do you think the major factors or the forces which are shaping the global economy?
Yes, I think that the increasing trade policy uncertainties that is shaping the economy, and you have geopolitical tensions, this, and digitalization.
Yes, digitalization. Very good. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And any other? Tavishan, would you like to share your thoughts about the major shifts, the major forces, the factors which are impacting the global economy?
I think it's political instability, the wars in Middle East, leading to higher freight costs.
Yes, exactly. Conflicts. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. But there are other factors as well that are also shaping the strategies, that are also shaping the economies as well. If you read any global newspapers, for example, if you read the Financial Times, or if you read the Guardian or Reuters, or if you read the like other uh, publishing reports, let's say even PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, Accenture, McKinsey, or BCG, They also publish their reports on the global economy. Basically, there are, as I mentioned, that there are a lot of the shifts are underway. Let's discuss further in details. You have discussed about the AI, social media, governance, government, politics, uncertainty. Yes, these are like, and then the digitization and conflicts and wars which are happening, and all these are impacting trade wars. There are other factors. For example, you might have heard about trade war that right now happening, like between the world two largest powers, between US and China. And this is impacting the companies all around the world. We can call this as a geopolitics. So geopolitics is impacting the global companies. Okay. And in the previously we have seen with the Russia as well. So how, imagine all those companies, hundreds of companies that were operating in the Russian market. And when the war between Russia and Ukraine started, all those companies discontinued their operation. They exited from the Russian market. So imagine the strategies were impacted. Yesterday, I was reading the news about many Japanese companies, many South Asian companies, how they are adapting to their strategies. Many African companies, they are adapting to their strategies. The reason is very clear, because this geopolitics is impacting the companies all around the world. So many companies are cutting down their operations. Many companies are reducing their operations. Many companies are now they are rethinking their expansion plans. Even a lot of companies that have had projects or that have had sorry, plan for their investments in different markets, now they are reconsidering to whether they should go ahead with those planned investments or not. For example, like a lot of companies are reducing their dependence on the like Chinese manufacturing because of the tariffs. So this tariffs has impacted. So that's why strategies of companies are going through massive transformation, massive, like going through transformation. Okay, all right, like supply, because of the many reasons, and one of that reason is supply chain disruptions. Got it. Many companies are exiting from a lot of markets. So there is, as I told you, that there is a lot of shifts are happening. Understand? Another factor that we need to consider that's also impacting the company's strategies and their policies and their plans as well, that is called climate change. You might have heard about the impact of climate change on companies. Even like many countries right now are facing, some Europe is right now facing the heat wave, for example. Other parts of the world, there are floods. Many parts of the world, there are droughts, okay, water scarcity, and a lot of other factors are impacting. So that's why companies are under pressure to reduce their footprints, to reduce their carbon footprints, to reduce their environmental footprints, to reduce their like wastage, and how they are contributing towards this shift. Okay, so there are pressure from investors, there are pressure from stakeholders, there are pressure from customers, there are pressure from governments. For example, you might have heard that European Union has introduced new laws about companies reporting, about companies emissions. So all this is happening. And then we can talk about, after discussion of this geopolitics and supply chain disruptions and climate change, and now there is AI. You might have heard about that in the news, that how companies are laying off. There are massive layoffs are happening. Okay, the reason, because more and more companies are integrating AI processes, automation of the processes. Many companies are exploring new technologies. Understand? So all this is shaping the strategies of the organization. So even 2025 has been, even 2024, the last year was, we have seen the massive shifts in company strategies. 2025, this speed has even further enhanced and beyond what we can see, that there's a lot of uncertainty about how companies are going to respond. The reason, because in many companies are facing other problems as well, about their boycotts, about the like tariffs, about their operation problems, about ethical issues. So we are seeing a massive shift even in society, in economy. Okay. And the people are becoming more and more aware of all this. For example, health issues, for example, like the waste issues, fast fashion, for example, if because I have been working in textile industry. So textile industry is oftenly like criticized for having a big contribution towards this climate change. Understand? Because of the fast fashion and the resulting outcomes of the textile processes in terms of waste, in terms of landfills, in terms of like the use of chemicals. Okay. So that's why textile industry brands like Zara, H&M, Adidas, Levi's, Nike, you might Gap, you might have seen that how they are transforming their operations and they are adjusting their operations. So lot we can expect in the 2020 next year as well and following. So here is the role of accountant. That is the point that you need to know. What is the role of accountant here? Now to be frank, we are no longer the traditional accountants. This is the fact, and you need to realize this. We need to prepare for this new role. And what is the new role? How we help companies in this transformation, how we help companies, how we guide companies, how we lead companies. Lead, yes, this is the role of the accountant, is now to lead through this transformation. Okay, how to lead through this uncertain times. Uncertain times. So accountants have the data. Accountants have the access to all the data that is required to make planning, to make decision making. Accountants have the access to all that data that is required for controls. Okay, so the role of the accountant has transformed, that how we guide companies through strategies, through planning, through decision making, how we guide and support the board, CEO in all that decision making about the company's sustainability. Yes. So I am now using word sustainability. Sustainable operations. This is the now role of the accountant. So I would say that this is beyond financial. Traditionally, accountants have been focused more on financial only, like we have been more focused on transactions, more focused on trial balance, balance sheet, income statement, these type of like financial ratio analysis and all that, cash management, cash flow management, account receivable, account payable. But now the role has evolved dramatically. Understand? And this role that has evolved dramatically is now about how we can help, the company, how we can lead the company towards more sustainable operations to achieve competitive advantage. Yes. So this all is beyond financial. How we lead and how we support our companies and our businesses to be more ethical business, to have the more social responsible business, to have the more sustainable business. Understand? And this all require thinking beyond financial. Okay, and by the way, if you have already noticed, now even if you look at the corporate reporting or financial reporting, it is becoming more and more non-financial. Okay, companies. The reason is very simple, because the financial side is becoming more and more automated. Use of softwares, for example, like SAP or other ERPS, enterprise resource planning system, like Oracle or SAP or other different ERPS, which are automating all the uh, like financial side. Understand? So accountant role is more on controls, like cybersecurity. We need to make sure that we have the right cybersecurity tools in place. Understand? We need to make sure that our supply chains are sustainable. We need to make sure that our suppliers are complying with all the ethical, with all the legal requirements. Okay, we need to make sure that how we are connected with our customers, how we are connected with our markets. We need to make sure that how we are connected with our other stakeholders, and we are offering the right return on investment. Understand? So all this is now the new role of the accountant, that we need to prepare for all this. I hope this little bit introduction and this little bit point would help you to understand the new and emerging role of the accountant in this fast changing landscape. Is there any question? Hello. I love to discuss, and I also expect my students to have a lot of discussions with me and also ask a question as well. Okay, so please don't be shy in my class. And whenever there is a question, feel free to ask. All right. Now we can discuss the evolution of SBL paper. SBL paper has transformed over time since its introduction. It was introduced in 2018. In 2018, SBL was introduced. And when it was introduced, it was 4 hours exam, 4 hours. Okay, and all the content, all the question like support material was provided within the exam. Okay, and the candidates and the students were required to read all the content, all the material, all the information, all the data within the exam time, and then answer to multiple tasks. There used to be, for example, 4 hours exam, and then there used to be 4, 5, well, let's say there were 5 tasks that needed to be answered. Sometime 4, sometime 5, even sometime more than 5 as well, like part A, part B, or part C. So this was the first pattern of 20 SBL exam. Then in 2023, the SBL exam was changed. Okay, I would come to your question later, Faizan. Okay, so then in 2023, a new format of the SPL exam was introduced, and this was now the pre-scene introduction of pre-scene. Now, what is pre-scene? Means before 2 weeks before the exam, 2 weeks before the exam. Okay, this pre-scene information is provided, or this kind of document, like 10, 12 pages document that is made available and you can download through your account, okay, 2 weeks before. And this will include all the introduction about the organization, introduction about the industry, and all the related information about the company governance, about the board structure, about the markets, about customers, about stakeholders, about risk, and about the basic finance, such as different type of ratios or other like ROI, profitability, cost. This type of financial information are also provided in this pre-scene. Okay, so this pre-scene is made available 2 weeks before. During the exam day or exam day, there will be further information are provided. There would be, you can expect 4 exhibits are provided in the exam, within the exam. Okay, these 4 exhibits are basically will focus on the 3 tasks which like these are the questions or the tasks which are set within the SBL exam. Okay, so these 4 exhibits that offer further details or further information or further developments about that scenario that you were provided 2 weeks before. Okay, so in these 4 exhibits, further details and developments are shared. And these tasks are set around this information. This is the point that you need to note down, that the tasks would be set around these information which are provided within the 4 exhibits. Yes, but you would also be able to use the information which are provided within the pre-scene as reference points. Please understand my discussion. Okay, the 3 tasks which are set within the SBL exam, major information or primary source of information will be this one. This will be the primary source of information to write answers. Okay, these 4 exhibits. And then this pre-scene you will be using as a reference point. Use as support material and references. Okay, and by the way, this all requires you develop a skill, and that is not difficult. With just 2-3 questions solving, you will be able to tackle that, how you have to like attempt the SBL exam. Understand? So this is clear? Are you clear on this point, that how SBL exam is set and how it has transformed? Excuse me. Is there any question? Okay, perfect. So now you are clear that there will be 3 tasks within the SBL exam, and the new SBL exam is 3 hours, by the way, 3 hours and 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Okay, and how you have to use this 3 hours and 15 minutes, definitely we will, when we will start practice questions, then I will be helping you, I will be guiding you that how you have to use this time in reading, in analyzing, and in assessing and developing answers. So all that is part of when we will start practice. Okay, so the new SBL exam is 3 hours and 15 minutes, and there will be pre-scene information 2 weeks before available, and then within the exam there will be 3 tasks, 4 exhibits, and then you have to. And if I tell you that the new SBL exam is relatively easier than before one, yes, there is a very clear understanding, because previously everything you have to go through within the exam, so there was a lot of pressure to read 12, 13, 14 pages of the information, and then you have to choose all the right information that you will be needed for your answers. So this was more hectic previously, but now this is more simple. Yes, December 2025 will be according to the latest pattern. December 2025 exam will be according to this pattern that I am right now discussing, Faizan. Okay? 3 hours and 15 minutes, 3 tasks, 4 exhibits, and there will be like pre-seen information that will be made available 2 weeks before the exam. Okay, so I hope that you have understood the evolution of SBL paper from 4 hours to 3 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, and then now let's talk about the SBL syllabus and the main capabilities of the SBL. SBL syllabus is structured into, there are total like 8 technical areas, syllabus areas, and then there are 2 additional areas that you need to focus. This is about skills and employability. So section A of the syllabus is leadership. Here, this is a small section. There are just few topics that you need to learn on the leadership. Okay, so more focus is on the leadership style that is required for today's fast changing landscape. Right style. Governance is more comprehensive because under governance, you will be learning about many different topics such as board of directors, executive directors, non-executive directors, stakeholders, stakeholder theories, CSR, sustainability, integrated reporting. All these topics are part of the governance. Strategy is also a comprehensive section, section C, where you will be learning about the different types of strategies. Section D is about risk management. Here, you will have the opportunity to learn about how to manage, how to assess the risk. Section E is about technology and data analytics. Here, you will be learning about the different types of technologies which are available, which are being used by organizations, such as like the cloud computing, or for example, the other technologies which are emerging, like this e-commerce and e-business and AI, business process outsourcing, and all that. Next F section is about organization control and audit. So here you will be learning more about the internal controls, internal audit, their importance, like the cybersecurity, ethics, these type of topics you will be learning here. Section G is about finance in planning and decision making. Of course, finance is a core part of your learning in strategy, because when we are talking about strategy change or strategy development, whether we are going to expand the operations, we are going to invest in a new markets, we are going to launch a new product, we are going to launch a new process, we are going to launch a new project, we need finance. Business need finance. So how to source that finance, sources of finances, or for example, when we are going to undertake a project, we make sure that this project will be profitable. So we need to apply different tools such as NPV, net present value, IRR, payback period, sensitivity analysis, different types of ratio analysis that we need to apply on a proposed investment. Of course, when we are going to make an investment, we need to make sure that what is the worthiness of that project. So here it's finance. Next, the last syllabus topic is about section H, and section H is about innovation, performance excellence, and change management. Here you will be learning about the different theories on process management, process improvement, process innovation, change management, project management, and many other topics you will be covering here. Then the section I is about professional skills. Let's talk about SBL skills. There will be 80-20 ratio of SBL. 80-20 ratio. 80% or 80% marks are related to technical knowledge. We call this as technical knowledge. Is about these 8 sections. These 8 sections, technical knowledge. The remaining 20% of the marks, or 20 marks of the SPL paper out of 100, are related to 5 professional skills. 5 professional skills are part of the SBL that you need to learn, okay, as a part of your SBL studies, SBL preparation. You also need to work on these 5 skills. So these 5 skills are like, first of all, analysis. You need to know how to analyze the information. Then there is evaluation. Evaluation means when we are going to make a decision, we have to evaluate the decision. Evaluate means we have to check its appropriateness. We have to check its suitability, whether this decision, this investment, this strategy is making sense for this organization or not. Then there is a commercial acumen. Then there is a skepticism. And then there is a communication. So these are the 5 skills that you need to learn about. Okay, these are the 5 skills that you need to learn about. Okay, so these are analysis, evaluation, skepticism. Skepticism is a very interesting skill. When we are living in era of social media, we are living in era of we are overloaded with data and information. We are collecting, talking about big data, big data, big data. So imagine not all that data is useful. Not all that data is trustworthy. So all the numbers that we are provided with, that we are going to use in our decisions, all the data that we are going to use in our planning, all the information that we are going to use in our investment decisions, we need to question. We need to ask, is it trustworthy? Is it real? Is it authentic? And there are very clear reasons. Disinformation is everywhere. Fake data is everywhere. Yes, fake data. We know about fake data, fake information, okay, disinformation. So we have to make sure that the data that we are using in our, can we trust? Is it authentic? Etc., etc. We need to ask questions, and this is a part of skepticism approach. Then there is number 4 skill is about the commercial acumen. Commercial acumen means we need to have a broader understanding. You have heard about, see the bigger picture. What is called big picture? Mean when we are making decisions, seeing big picture in decision making. So not only we have to focus on short term, but we also have to focus on the long term as well. We have to look at the broader side. We don't have to focus on just narrow targets, not just short term, narrow focus. narrow goals or narrow focus, but we have to have a broader, long-term, wider focus about implications, about impact, not only about our organization, but also we need to consider the impact on and implications on the other stakeholders. And this is called design thinking. Design thinking. Okay, that when we are planning, we are making decisions, we have to have a broader view. Broader view, broader understanding. Okay, and then the fifth skill is about communication. We need to know that how to communicate well, how to communicate effectively. How to communicate our ideas effectively. For example, being the CFO, for example, or being the financial analyst, for example, or being a strategy leader, let's say, how are going to convince, how are going to persuade the board about a new proposal on sustainability, how to align with sustainability, how to align with sustainable goals, how to persuade the board to make investments in our more environment-friendly technologies. Understand, for example. So all this is part of the 5 skills that you will need to learn as a part of the your SBL learning and as a part of the SBL exam preparation. Is this clear? Is there any question? Is there any question? Okay, now let's talk about the syllabus. As I mentioned, there are 8 syllabus sections. So first of all, there is a leadership. Section A is about leadership. Here, you will be learning about these 3 areas. Qualities of the leadership. Qualities of the leadership. Now we are in 2025. So the role of the leadership has dramatically evolved in this 2025 because so many factors have changed. So how a leader would need to act, how a leader would need to react, how a leader would need to uh, connect, engage with different stakeholders, engage with employees. So here is the leadership role in 2025. Very interesting learning for you here. Next, leadership and organizational culture. What is culture? Culture itself is a very interesting discussion. Okay, organization culture, how people think, how people behave, how people tell stories, what they consider important, what are the shared values of the people, and the role of the leadership. So for example, when we talk about ethical leadership, that means the leadership at the top level management, they they are very responsible. Okay, responsible in terms of responsible towards different stakeholders, responsible towards suppliers, towards customers, towards society, responsible towards the nature because they take care of the climate, they take care of the resources that they are using. Understand? So when this mindset is included in the decision making, when decisions are made, when strategies are designed, when policies are designed, with that all responsible, with all that ethical, with all that moral values, okay, how those values, ethics, and morality passes to the other levels in the organization. So all that is about ethics and responsible values. Okay, and then there are other topics like professionalism, ethical codes, and public interest. So here you will be learning about the code of ethics. That is also part of the ACCA as well. What are the professional values that you need to learn about? What are the ethical threats you will be learning about? And then ethical safeguards that you need to learn about. So all that's a part of this leadership, because that's a, as I mentioned, that the role of the leadership is very critical, very important, because all the what leader will consider important, that will also move down to the other levels of the management. If top leadership is behaving in a responsible and ethical way, this mindset will also be passed to this mindset will also be this culture, this mindset will be delivered and followed by everyone within the organization. Next is governance. Here we will be learning about the top topics are agency theory. Agency theory is about the relationship between the principal and agent. Who is principal and who is agent? Okay, so shareholders are considered as the principal because they own the company, they own the business, they are the owners, so they are the principal. They appoint the board to act on their behalf. They appoint the board to make decisions, take decisions, and they appoint the board to run their business. So board of directors act as agent. Okay, so that is agency theory, the relationship between the principal and the agent. We will be learning many other topics as a part of the agency theory. Next is about stakeholders analysis and organization social responsibility. My dear, as I mentioned earlier, that we are in 2025, where the external environment of the organization, there are massive shifts are happening. So stakeholders are one of that shift. Stakeholders analysis. Who are your stakeholders? Your stakeholders might have a long list of actors. They can be your suppliers, your customers, your employees, your management, your investors, your finance providers. But the list is not just this. There are other stakeholders as well. For example, there is society, there is community, there is government, and then there is a nature. Nature, nature is also a stakeholder. We must have to consider nature in the decision making, in strategy design. When we are developing a new strategy design. What is that strategy? For example, we are planning to open a new factory, launch a new plant, expand the existing plant, or we are going to relocate our factory from this place to another place, from one point to another point. Normally, we look at only financial, but this is now the old theory. We have to consider nature as well. We have to consider community and society as well. Okay, how they would respond to community. Understand their responses, how they would respond to our strategy, our decisions. Okay, so all this is a part of stakeholders analysis and organization social responsibility that we will be considering and studying here. Next, governance scope and approaches. So here you will be learning about the different types of governance systems. There are basically two broad governance systems. There is a rule-based governance, and then there is a principle-based governance. So you will be learning both type of governance approaches here. Next topic is about reporting to stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? As I mentioned, stakeholders, like typically stakeholders are considered as the shareholders, but there are other stakeholders as well who are interested in the reporting, who are interested in the information that we share. There are many groups, okay? The groups interested in the reports. Reports mean information shared. What type of information we are sharing with them? Previously, normally the normal report was, traditional report was financial reporting, financial only, okay, and little information about the board of directors. But now in 2025, we are living in an era of sustainability reporting. Okay, we are living in era of many other different formats and frameworks are there. For example, even the International Accounting Standard Board, for example, IASB, they have introduced now Sustainability Standard Board. So there is International Sustainability, ISSB, for example, if you have heard about International Sustainability Reporting, there are integrated reporting, IR, there is like GRI, Global Reporting Initiatives, and many other reporting formats are there. And if you have gone through these integrated reports or GRI or other different CDP, Carbon Disclosure Project, or other different frameworks, so you might have noticed that these are very comprehensive reporting on non-financial, comprehensive reports, reporting on non-financial. Okay, it requires about emissions. For example, there are different types of emissions: scope 1 emissions, scope 2 emissions, scope 3 emissions. It requires reporting on waste, it requires reporting on recycling, and then it requires that how much improvement we are doing on all that, how much improvement we are making on energy, how much improvement we are making, because we need to have a baseline, basically. Yes, in these reporting. This is unlike conventional reporting, unlike traditional reporting that was more focused on financial side only. But in these new developing frameworks, the focus is on that. What is our baseline? Baseline. For example, we have established a baseline of 2010, for example, that we are going to reduce our emissions. Okay? Reduce emissions, reduce our footprints starting from 2010. Okay, so baseline as 2010, and then we start setting our targets that we are going to reduce it by 5% or 10% every year. And if you look at all big companies, for example, I would start with Coca-Cola, for example, or you talk about Starbucks or Pepsi or Nestle, McDonald's, okay? All these companies, because these companies have massive footprints, okay? These companies have massive footprints. about their emissions, about their supply chain. If you look at McDonald's, for example, or Coca-Cola or Starbucks or these type of big companies like Toyota, Honda, Nissan, you talk about Volkswagen, okay, you talk about these energy companies, you talk about these food companies. So think about their footprints. How many cups are used? How many bottles are used every day? Think about McDonald's, for example, the world's largest fast food restaurant with around 35,000 to 40,000. Um, it has restaurants all around the world. So imagine the level of waste that is created. Imagine the level of the food that is consumed. Understand, and the supply chain you can think about. Understand. So these companies are under pressure now, and that's why reporting frameworks have changed. Then there's a board of directors, as I discussed earlier, as a part of the Gen Z discussion. Then there's a public sector governance. Public sector governance, like in public organizations, in the government organization, in not-for-profit sector, that how we need to report on, how we need to govern on, how we need to set controls, understand? So all this is part of public sector governance. Section C is about strategy. You will be learning here about the concepts of strategies, like how strategies are developed, environmental issues, how the internal and external environment would impact strategy. Number 3 is about competitive forces. Competitive forces is about like how the different competition, how the different forces impact the strategy of the organization. Okay, how the different forces change over time and they impact strategy of the organization. Then internal resources, capabilities, and competencies of the organization. That how the like this is a more about the strengths and weaknesses. Okay, some companies would be very strong in their resources, but they might be weak on the capability side and competency side. But some companies might be strong on the both sides. They might have the all resources and they would have all the capabilities and competencies. So this would lead to achieving competitive advantage. Yes, competitive advantage. How to achieve competitive advantage? To achieve competitive advantage, organization need to have the unique resources. There are two types of resources. There are basic resources, and then there are unique resources. Basic resources are just to operate. But when we talk about unique resources, these are beyond the basic. These help lead the organization to achieve competitive advantage. Then we talk about competencies and capabilities and skills and knowledge. Do you think are these essential for achieving competitive advantage? Yes, of course. Capabilities and these are the there are basic, even skills and competencies can be divided into two. There would be basic skills, there would be advanced skills. Basic skills are just skills to deliver a service, that's it. But when we talk about advanced skills, this is called core competencies. So if an organization has developed core competencies, this would help the organization to achieve competitive advantage. Okay, so that's why we see all the leading companies in the world. For example, we talk about NVIDIA, you might have heard about, or you might have heard about TSMC or Samsung, for example. Okay, Michelin, Toyota, all these companies have developed their core competencies, and those core competencies have led these companies to achieve competitive advantage. Okay, next topic is about strategic choices. Here we will be learning about how to choose a right strategy, because every strategy is not the right strategy. Every strategy is not the right strategy. So how to choose the best strategy. Okay, learn how to choose the right strategy for the organization. Okay, next one is section D. This is about risk management. So this section is not very detailed. There are broad two main areas of the topics. First one is about identification, assessment, and measurement of risk, like how to identify different type of risk. For example, how we can identify risks are identified when there are shifts in the PESTEL factors. PESTEL, we are going to discuss this model today. PESTEL, P-E-S-T-E-L, PESTEL model is a framework for external environment analysis. So when there are shifts in political landscape, you remember in the start of today's session, we discussed about this, that what the mega trends, mega shifts, mega changes are happening in the global economy and global business landscape. There are political shifts, there are economic shifts, there are social, technological, ecological, legal. So this combined called PESTEL model. There are so many shifts are happening in the PESTEL. So we need to identify those shifts and how they may impact the business strategy. Assessment. Now, the next point is about once identified, then we have to assess. Assess means we have to evaluate that how a particular risk may impact the strategy. How is this risk, if it materializes, how it may impact, what will be the outcomes, and then measure the impact. What if it materializes? How much would be the impact? Measure the impact. Okay. Next part is about manage now. Once you have identified and assessed the risk, now it is time to manage. There are different strategies that we can deploy to manage the risk. Okay. Then monitor the risk is a very important. So how we are going to monitor. There are these days there are technologies are available, or we use another method that is part of the SBL syllabus. This is risk register. We prepare a risk register, and through the risk register, we can monitor the change in the risk. Yes, because risks change over time. Risks change over time. This is called dynamic nature. Dynamic nature of risk. Okay, they change over time. And then the next part is mitigating risk. So we will introduce different methods, different tools, different techniques that we can deploy to mitigate risk, impact of the risk. Okay, that's called section D, risk management. Section E is about technology and data analytics. The major topics that we will be discussing here about cloud, mobile, and smart technologies. We are seeing the development of the cloud. In the last 10 years, particularly last 10 years, we have seen the massive growth in the cloud services. Okay, so major cloud provider today, whether you talk about Amazon or Google or other different cloud providers, for example, Microsoft or Oracle or SAP, or there are relatively smaller cloud providers as well. So last and even these days, the companies are massively investing in their data centers, because in the data centers where all the data processing capabilities and technologies are employed. So cloud, we have seen platforms, the massive growth of platforms. Platforms mean these are digital business models, or in other words, we can also use these as online business models. For example, delivery apps we talk about, or e-commerce apps, or ride-sharing apps, or finance online or digital finance apps. We have seen a massive growth in the platforms in the last 10 years. Okay, massive growth of platforms everywhere in the world, everywhere. Okay, whether these are food delivery apps or grocery apps or ride sharing apps, or you talk about fintech, for example. Okay, all these. So how these digital products, digital business models, how would they work? They need fast processing and cloud. That's why we have seen the massive growth of cloud, mobile, and smart technology in the last 10 years. And in the future, you think about how this is going to change the future as well, because this last 10 years from 2015, let's say, although it all started from 2010, but this 2015 to 2025, we have seen the massive growth in all these online services. This is also related to the online or digital economy. Okay, digital economy. And when we go online, imagine the level of the data that is created. Every click is saved. Every screenshot, every like, every comment, every click, every page that we navigate in online, when we are online, is tracked and the data is collected. So imagine the level of the data that is generated. Now we are not living in era of terabytes. We are living in era of zettabytes. You might have heard about. Just go online and check the level of the data that we are having today. So the data has so many different forms. Okay, there is a structured data, there is a semi-structured data, there is unstructured data, and then the data has so many different varieties as well. Okay, data might be in the form of finances, data might be in the form of emotions, data might be in the form of videos, images. All that is a different forms of the data. So the traditional tools that we have for the data analysis may not be helpful when it comes to the massive data. Big data requires the processing, storage, and analytics. All this, the conventional methods would not work, because this processing, storage, and analytics is required in cloud. This all happens in cloud. That's why you are seeing the rise of SaaS services, SaaS, SaaS. SaaS means software as a service. So there was a question on this topic in one of the last year SBL exam, that a company provides cloud services. Yes, there was a complete SBL question on cloud providers. Cloud industry. So you can imagine the focus of this paper. A complete paper has been set around cloud industry. So as I was mentioning that when we are talking about big data, data analytics, so the conventional methods of data processing, the conventional method of data storage, the conventional methods of data analytics would not work. We need massive, big investments in data warehouses. Yes, we talk about data warehouses. And data warehouses require data centers. Data centers. That's why companies are investing hundreds of billions of dollars in the data centers, because this and all this AI is all connected with these topics. Massive data is beyond. Now, how we are going to process that data? Okay, it may requires hundreds of individuals, hundreds of employees. So companies are now introducing algorithms. They are using technologies to use that all data. Okay, that's why here comes machine learning, AI, and robotics. Okay, so all these topics, cloud, mobile, smart technologies, data analytics, machine learning, AI, all these are interconnected with each other. Number 4 is about e-business and value chain, like how businesses are using the e-business capabilities in terms of website, in terms of apps, in terms of like how they are using different technologies in their value chain, in sourcing, in supply chain, in manufacturing, in production, in operations, in marketing, inbound logistics, HR, in technology procurement, different how you use of technology at various stages of supply chain. How are companies deploying technologies at various stages of supply chain? For example, think about agriculture, a food company, an agriculture company, how they are using technologies. You might have heard about modern day farms equipped with technologies. These days, tractors and other farm equipment that is being introduced is now equipped with AI based. Yes, that's a very interesting farm equipment, let's say. We are living in an era of digital agriculture farms where drones, sensors, and all these AI-based technologies are being deployed in agriculture. Understand, that's a very interesting. During our maybe next lecture, we will be discussing further this topic in more detail, that how AI, data, technology, cloud is being used in the agriculture and food supply chains. That will be very interesting for you. And then next is about IT systems, security and control. Yes, my dear, when we are relying heavily on cloud, mobile, big data, machine learning, here are new threats. Here are new risks are emerging. What if hackers hack our whole agriculture software? what would happen? Imagine like there would be massive issues. Understand, if they manage to enter into like in the systems, if they breach the system and take all the data, there will be a lot of problems. So the point is that as we are increasingly relying on information systems and information technology and cloud and machine learning, the hackers are also developing more sophisticated tools as well. IT, protecting IT assets, IT infrastructure, and we are now talking about IT governance basically. IT assets. What are our IT assets? Like our cloud is our IT asset, our software, our ERPS, let's say, ERPS is our very important asset. And you would know that companies investing like hundreds of millions of dollars in their ERPS. So what if it is hacked? What would happen? Understand? Even AI is being now used in the like this IT system security as well. Okay, emerging threats are there. So we need to make sure that we have the right tools, right, all the protocols are there, right systems are there that protect our, and yes, for example, cloud. Increasingly, we are relying on cloud. So that is one of the reasons that why companies prefer cloud, because cloud providers, they use the latest tools, the latest softwares to protect the data. So cloud normally is considered more secure as comparison to the if we have our own in-house data servers and data warehouses. Okay, next one is section F is about organization control and audit. So this is also not very long area. There are just few topics. Number one area is about management and internal control systems. So here we will be talking and learning about the like what are the suitable, appropriate internal control systems that organization need to have. Of course, the rising threats are there, the risks are changing, and compliance and all this we need to have more up-to-date internal control systems in place. So what is that framework? Are there frameworks? Yes, there is COSO framework. COSO framework for internal control systems. Okay, we will also be talking many other things in the context of risk management and internal controls. Then there is audit and compliance. There is internal audit and then there is external audit. So we will be discussing in detail about the role of internal auditor, the role of external auditor. Okay, all this is part of here. Number three, internal control and management reporting. Do you know that the reporting on internal control is an important part of the modern day reporting? Yes, reporting on internal control systems. This is the responsibility of the board. And board, normally, board would have a committee named as audit committee, audit and risk committees. Many companies, if you see, many companies would have a common audit and risk committee, means single one audit and risk committee. But a lot of companies, not if they are large, if they are big companies, they are recommended to have audit and risk committees separately. And these are part of the SBL learning as well. SBL syllabus focus on 4 different types of committees. audit committee, risk committee, and then nomination committee and remuneration committee. So there are 4 different types of committees are part of the SBL syllabus. Okay, so the role is very important. And if we look at the past papers, this topic has been tested multiple times in the SBL past papers. Okay, so you can understand its importance. Next, section G is about finance in planning and decision making. As I mentioned, that when it comes to technology strategy, sustainability strategy, every strategy has a financial aspect. And it makes sense as well. When we are going to purchase a new software, when we are going to procure a new technology, when we are going to procure a new machine, new system, new equipment, or when we are going to expand the operations of our organization, we need finances. So how those finances would be arranged, whether we will arrange those finance through internal sources or we will need external sources for managing finance. So all this we will be discussing here about the leverage, about the debt, about the equity. Now, equity, for example, if the company is a small company, if the company is a family-run company, okay, for example, on the one side, it can be a listed company. If that's a listed, mean it can sell its stock. It is listed, so it can sell its stock. But what if it is a family company, family-based company? It cannot sell its stock. It cannot sell its shares on the stock market. Then what are the options available? Understand? So we need to discuss all this in that context. And then after this, we have to evaluate how much return on investment, NPV, payback period, IRR. So all this we need to consider. Financial analysis and decision-making techniques, of course, when we are making decisions, finance is part of that. And then the third part is about cost and management accounting. Cost and management accounting is about the different costing methods. It's not, you might have studied it earlier papers at performance management about the cost and management accounting, different methods, for example, relevant costing or activity-based costing. At SBL, of course, you would not be asked to calculate the cost per unit, very least likely if it is asked. But the more question would ask you about budgeting, for example, if this cost method suitable for the strategy or not. Yes, you heard right. Here, you need to align your costing and budgeting with the strategy of the organization. What that means? For example, if a company is following a cost leader strategy, or if a company is following a differentiation strategy, these are the different types of strategies. So what should be its budgeting method? How it should budget? How it should calculate its cost? All this we will be learning here under cost and management accounting. How to align costing and budgeting with business strategy. So this topic is more of higher level than operational level. Next section, H. enabling success and change management. So what are the key topics that you can expect to learn here? Enabling success means, first of all, organizing. Organizing means you will learn here about organizational structure. How to design structure that reflect strategy. That is the key learning here. Structure that follow strategy. Design structure that follow strategy of the organization. What is strategy? And very interesting thing is that structure is something that constantly need to change. That's why we are seeing, for example, if we look at currently what is happening around the globe, companies are restructuring. Restructuring. What does restructuring mean? Adjusting the structure of the organization that reflect strategy. Yes. For example, in this era of AI, in this era of machine learning, in this era of digital platforms, increasingly organizations are restructuring digital business models. So under digital business models, conventional approach to structure would not work. Conventional approach to structure would not work. For example, I can give you one example here. Like remote work is now a common thing. And this especially in last 5 years we have seen, especially after COVID. Because before COVID, the concept of remote work was not as common. But once the COVID hit, this became a norm. So pre and post COVID, how the structures have evolved and changed. That's a very interesting to note. Okay. More and more organizations, we are talking about virtual work, virtual office. Lot of names: work from home, remote work, virtual office. And this has given the opportunity to companies to recruit staff all around the world. So if your company is based in London, for example, you can recruit your staff from Mauritius. You can recruit your staff from Philippines. Okay. You can recruit your staff from anywhere in the world. And this is because of the digital platforms and more sophisticated softwares and technologies have developed. So the point is that structure need to constantly adjust because it need to reflect strategy of the organization. So because strategy needs changes, so structure as well. When there is a change in strategy, whenever, this is a very interesting point for you to learn, when there is a shift in strategy, structure will be needed to change as well. Got it? Because structure, if structure is not adjusted, there will be problems. Because if structure is not changed, then this will continue operating as per the previous mindset, and that would not be favorable for the organization. Very interesting discussions, and this is our technical, higher level technical discussions. Normally students find it challenging when it comes to discussion of organizational structure. So SBL, if you look at the past papers, and in the future papers even as well, SBL future papers, you can expect topics from these areas, more topics. The reason is very clear, because disruption is underway. Organizations are disrupting or being disrupted. So we need to change structure. And here is next topic about enabling success. This is disruptive technologies. Yes, disruptive technologies. New technologies are developing, and these are disrupting the incumbents. New technologies are developing, and these are challenging existing business models. Okay. New business models, new digital business models, developing and challenging. Okay. Challenging existing, challenging established. For example, I can give you a few examples. Like when Tesla became a global success, what happened? Electric vehicles. In the last 10 years, we have seen a massive, big rise of electric vehicles. And this has challenged the well-established players in auto industry. And today, it's a very interesting. First, Tesla became a household name, and now a new disruptor has challenged the Tesla. First, Tesla challenged, and then first Tesla challenged, big names, and then BYD. You might have heard about BYD. It's a Chinese company. BYD came to challenge Tesla. That's a very interesting in the EV competition landscape. There are many interesting, so many developments happening in the EV industry. And this is not very old. This is just last 15 years. It all has happened. Just last 15 years. But imagine who are getting impacted heavily. They are those players who have been in this industry for more than 100 years. You guess right. Who are being challenged? Who are conventional? For example, this is Volkswagen. Where is Volkswagen? More than 100 years of history. You talk about GM, you talk about Chrysler, you talk about Ford, and many other players. They are getting impacted because of this new shift in the auto industry. This is just one example I have shared of what is these are called disruptive technologies. But there are so many other examples of disruptive technologies. You talk about in digital payments, you talk about in the online streaming, Netflix, Spotify, Apple Music, you talk about Airbnb, and many, many, many others like ride sharing apps, delivery apps, e-commerce apps, and endless list of disrupting technologies. So imagine how these are challenging the conventional business models. So very interesting. So we will be discussing all this. Basically, this show a new era of strategy. New era of strategy. That is the topic that I love to learn, add my knowledge. And this is the area where I am right now working. The new era of strategy. New era of business strategy. We need new thoughts, new ideas, new models to compete. And there's a very clear reason. We cannot continue with conventional approaches. We cannot continue with conventional wisdom, with conventional, for example, if a company was market leader 10 years back, they can't claim that we were leader in the 10-year back and we will be leader again. Market leaders are changing. Okay, this is the learning for you that you need to be clear. Market leaders, once a market leader, now once a market leader became struggling, left behind, or once a market leader left behind by new emerging players. So this race is continuing. Okay, I hope you understood this very interesting discussions on this new shifts, disruptive technologies. Talent management is the next topic. Talent management, of course, we need to have new talent. We need to have the new talent in a new era, in a new strategy, okay, with the new skills, new knowledge is required. So here this is a small topic. We will discuss about the who has the responsibility, the role of the board, and how to attract the new talent, how to retain the new talent, how to develop the new talent, etc., etc. Next topic is about enabling success, performance, excellence. So this topic here, you will learn about how to achieve the performance excellence, or what are the characteristics of the world-class companies. There are different frameworks, there are different models that we will be discussing here. Next topic is about managing strategic change. One of the biggest topic in SBL. And this is the area where you can expect questions more often. Okay, managing strategic change. And there's a reason as well. As I already have discussed multiple times, that we are going through an era of disruption. We are going through an era of unprecedented shifts. We are going through an era of unprecedented change. So, who will be winner? Who will be loser? Winners and losers. Who are they? Those who can adapt, those who can adjust, those who are ready to be disrupted, who are already disrupting themselves. So that's a very interesting discussions about managing strategic change that organization need to constantly monitor external, internal environment, what type of changes are there in external environment, and then adapt. So there will be many different theories we will be covering here. And number 6 is about leading and managing projects. This is the last topic where we will learn about how to manage a project. There are different topics under this project management topic about the business case, about the role of the project manager, project sponsor, how to report on projects, how to manage risk of the project. So all these are different topics that we will be covering under this topic. Okay, so my dear, that's all about our very comprehensive discussions of this SBL syllabus we have done. Is there any question so far? I hope you are finding it interesting. Hello. Is there any question? Perfect. Thank you. So what do you think? SBL is boring or interesting course? There are a lot of things that you can learn, by the way, and you can enhance, you can even distinguish yourself, by the way, if you learn comprehensively this paper. Okay, there are many things that you can learn from this. All right, I think you are waiting for short break time, so we can have a quick break time, 10 minutes. And after this 10 minutes, we will be working on skills, the 5 skills. And after discussion of 5 skills, we will be moving on to discuss the why students fail an SBL exam and what you need to learn. And then we will also be discussing the few topics from the SBL notes that I have for you already. Okay, so we will be discussing the strategy and different other topics after this break. For example, external environmental analysis, how to perform this, TESTL analysis, and these models we will be covering after the break time. Also, the 10 minutes of the break time, and see you after 10 minutes. Enjoy your break time and see you. Welcome back. So before break time, we were talking about the technical side or knowledge side of the syllabus. And as I mentioned that there are 80% marks or 80 marks for the syllabus technical areas. The 20 marks are there for 5 skills, which are part of the SBL exam: analysis, evaluation, skepticism, commercial acumen, and communication. So let's discuss each one by one. All the 5 skills are tested in the paper that you need to make it clear. All 5 skills are tested. What is analysis? Analysis is about a detailed and careful examination in a structured, designed way to help knowing it and understand its impact. Like, in summary, this means the candidate have to thoroughly investigate and research information from a variety of sources and logically process it with a view to considering it for recommending appropriate action. When it comes to analysis, basically, you have to analyze the information. You have to analyze the data. There are different methods for analysis. Okay, you have to find out how suitable this data, this information is, and how this can be used for the strategy, how this can be used for the decision making, for the planning, for the control of the organization. When it comes to analysis, there are 3 components of analysis, 3 components. It requires investigate. The data, the information that you are using, you have to investigate its sources. Where is this data coming from? Where is this information coming from? Is it coming from the authentic and credible sources? Inquire is about, you have to inquire about the, like, what other information are there? Are there other information or data available that can be helpful? And consider, you have to consider the different sources of information. You have to consider the references. You have to consider the evidence. You have to consider some other like evidence as well that can be helpful for having a bigger picture, for having a complete picture, for having a wider picture that you need for the decision making. Okay, so that is about analysis. Analysis has 3 elements: investigate, inquire, and consider the information, the data, the sources of information. Evaluation is more deeper thought. Evaluation, because when it comes to evaluate, we have to carefully assess any decision, any investment, any proposal, any option that is presented to us. We have to carefully assess that option. Okay, find out its strengths, its weaknesses, and find out its impact, implication, outcomes, and then find out how it is aligned with our existing culture, our existing structure, our existing strategy, how it is aligned with our existing strengths and weaknesses, how this new proposal is aligned with our values, our mission, our vision. All this is part of evaluation. Okay, so evaluation questions are normally tested at SBL exam. Evaluate a proposed strategy, evaluate a proposed option, evaluate a proposed decision. There are many different ways to where this question can be asked. There are 3 elements of evaluation. When it comes to evaluation, you have to assess any proposal, any project, any process, any decision. Whatever is presented to you, you have to assess it. Estimate. Estimate mean estimate the impact, estimate the outcomes, estimate the like, for example, if there is it claimed that there is a profit, let's say, for example, expected return from a proposal, from a project or from a proposal. So how are you going to estimate that? As I mentioned, that you have to use skepticism. So when a project is presented to you and it claimed that the project return will be, let's say, returns for expected returns over next 10 years. So you have to challenge, you have to estimate, you have to analyze all this, the 10 years of returns. And this is a common type of question at SBL exam. And I can tell you, not many students able to perform this type of questions. So this is, you need to prepare for this. How to challenge, how to estimate. Okay. So evaluation is about assess the impact, the outcomes, the implications, the results, estimate the results, the trends, the impact, appraise those facts, opinions, findings, risk, returns, benefits, threats, opportunities, okay, before making final recommendation. Before making final recommendation, you have to appraise all the outcomes, facts, and figures. Okay, that is very interesting. Evaluation. What is called skepticism? In summary, this means the candidates have to probe, to question, to challenge information and views presented to them, to fully understand business issues, and to establish facts objectively based on ethical and professional values. Yes, ethical and professional values. So when you are presented with a new project, a new proposal, new project, a new proposal, how are you going to apply skepticism skill? So 3 elements of skepticism skill are probe. Probe mean a deeper understanding of underlying issues beyond what is apparent from the available sources. Yes, so you need to dig deeper. This is beyond going, means not just rely on what is presented, not just rely on the facts or the numbers or the data that is presented. Rather, you dig deeper into the situation to have the more deeper understanding, to have the more clarity on the issue. Question mean what is presented, like all the facts, opinions, data, information, presentations, spread, like all the spreadsheets, for example, or PowerPoints that is presented to you. Okay, you have to question their authenticity, their validity, their accuracy, their completeness. You have to question their completeness, their accuracy, they're up to date, they are credible, they are authentic. Okay, so you have to ask different type of questions and then challenge. Basically, you have to challenge assumptions. You know that future, for example, future cash flows. Future cash flows are based on certain assumptions, okay, or any other proposal. Even you might be required to challenge the comments of different directors as well. There are past paper questions where the students were required to challenge comments made by board of directors, made by different directors. Now, how are you going to challenge? You must have a polite tone. You need to remain skeptic, but at the same time, you have to follow a professional approach. Okay, and this topic, this area, these type of questions are often tested in the SBL exam, and students find these type of questions a little bit difficult. Okay, so you have to challenge. For example, if a director, let's say, let me give you example that one director claimed that we should ignore these stakeholders because they are not important, and we should focus more on our investors, what they want. We should focus only on those, and we should ignore the claims of other different stakeholders. So now, being a finance specialist or finance professional, how are you going to challenge those comments made by the different directors? How are you going to challenge? This is a very interesting that you need to think, you need to develop this skill, how to challenge. This type of like you can expect in the SBL exam, this type of discussions, comments, how are you going to challenge in a professional and polite way? So this is you need to think about. Okay, my dear, after this is the commercial acumen. Commercial acumen is more about, as I mentioned, have broader understanding about, have awareness of the impact, have the awareness of the business and how business decisions works, how economy works, how strategies works. So there are three components of commercial acumen. There is a show insight. Show insight means that this is related to, for example, broader issues of the organization. Okay, for example, what if we take a decision? What type of problems, the challenges, the conflicts would be there if we choose a particular course of action? Demonstrate awareness is about show the wider context. Wider context mean like how the different broader factors like the pastel factors or market factors or competition factors, how they may impact our position, our strategy. Okay, and then use judgment. Identify key issues to resolve problems and recommend solutions. Identify key issues. What are the key factors, major problems, major issues that might impact our decision? The last area is about communication. Communication, if I look at the summary of this communication, in summary, this means the candidates have to express themselves clearly and convincingly. Clearly, how you clearly present your thoughts. And at SBL, it is expected. How you clearly present your thoughts. Okay, without any vague comments, vague statements, clearly focus, clearly comment, clearly presentation, and convincingly, like how you persuade with your discussions through the appropriate medium while being sensitive to the needs of the intended audience. In the exam, this means to present written and numerical work in the required format with professional tone and use of language and avoiding ambiguity, unnecessary explanations, and repetition. Okay, so all this is a part of communication. Communication has three components: inform, how you inform, like effectively, how you inform your board, your colleagues, your seniors, your leaders, how you inform them, being a leader role, for example, of a leader is to inform concisely, objectively, unambiguously, while being sensitive to cultural differences. Use appropriate media and technology. For example, what is media and technology? Let's say email, for example. You are required to write an email where you have to inform to your colleagues, your board members, your CEO, your CFO, your chairman, how you inform them. Persuade. Persuade means using compelling and logical arguments. SBL examiner, SBL markers, SBL paper loves arguments. Arguments, how you make arguments, and those arguments should be based on logic. Logic means it should be based on facts. It should be based on numbers. When you are making an argument, how you make references, facts and figures. Demonstrate the ability to counter argue when appropriate. Yes, even counter arguments are also required in SBL. SBL exam would expect you make argument and make counter argument. Counter argument, for example, as I mentioned earlier, you are challenging. In past papers, there are many questions we can see where you are required to critically evaluate or critically challenge, critically evaluate or challenge the comments or the presentation or the data or the numbers or the proposal, challenge the proposed investment. On the one side, you are going to challenge a proposed investment, but on the other side, you might be required to make the proposal. Okay, challenge the proposed investment or convince the board on a new proposed initiative. Okay, on one side you are challenging, on the other side you are convincing. So here comes your arguments and counter arguments. And definitely during our discussions we will be working on this, that how you need to make the arguments and how you need to make the counter arguments. Very interesting. And by the way, this skill is required today. Very important skill. Important skill for modern day work. Okay, because it is about critical thinking. You might have heard that there's a lot of focus these days on critical thinking, critical thinking, critical thinking. You need to have the critical thinking. How you develop this critical thinking, it will be part of this skill. How you argue and counter argue. Okay, I hope you understand these 5 skills that are part of the SPL exam. Very interesting. And of course, these 5 skills are there to train you for modern day work culture. Section 8 is about equip you with employability and digital skills. These are simple things. For example, of course, you know that you are going to write your computer-based exam. And in computer-based exam, you should be able to use the softwares, hardware, computers, all the technologies which are there. Okay, and different response options, which are, for example, spreadsheets are there, or the like word processor is there, or PowerPoint or slides are there. So you should know that how to use those. In like a spreadsheet, you should know how to use the basic formulas to analyze the data, to make the calculations. Okay. Navigate windows and computer screens. You should be able to perform the different work tasks, different questions, different answers, and different windows. You should be able to perform that, and how to present the data and information effectively using those different technologies and tools. Okay, so this is a basic learning, of course, as a part of your learning, and that's. Now let's talk about exam structure. Exam structure. Pre-scene information will be released 2 weeks before the exam sitting. The pre-scene contains background and contextual information on the fictitious organization that the exam will be based on and the industry in which it operates. Yes, the whole SBL paper is set around one case. Okay, the whole SBL exam is set around one case. It can be related to hotel industry. Okay, it can be related to cloud industry. It can be related to automotive industry. It can be related to furniture industry. It can be related to publishing industry. It can be related to like electronics, any industry. One case study. Pre-scene information will be released 2 weeks before the exam sitting. The pre-scene contains background and contextual information of the fictitious organization that the exam will be based on. Students are expected to familiarize themselves with the pre-scene information in advance of the exam, making sure that they understand the term and concepts that are included within the pre-scene. Students are not expected to conduct their research into the industry, yes. Although you can have the little bit understanding about the industry, the basic knowledge, okay, but no need to start researching deeply into the industry. The examination is based on integrated case study. Yes, integrated case study. The exam itself will contain further information relating to the fictitious organization in the pre-scene. The information could be from a range of sources, such as extracts of meetings. Yes, within the exam, as I mentioned earlier, there will be further information given. So those in 4 exhibits. So those 4 exhibits can be based on like extracts of meetings, board reports, board meetings, spreadsheets, any other document, any other information can be provided. Each exam will contain 3 tasks with a varying number of marks. These 3 tasks varying number of marks, these tasks may require the candidate to take on different roles depending on the situation. The number of marks allocated to all these tasks will add up to 100 in total. Okay. Within the total marks, there will be 20 professional skills marks. Most marks will contain professional skills marks. All tasks must be completed. The examination is of 3 hours and 15 minutes duration, but this including reading, planning, and reflection time. RPRT, this time can be used flexibly at any time during the exam. Yes, so 3 hours, 15 minutes means 195 minutes. And 195 minutes, you have to write for 80 marks, because 20 marks, you don't have to write anything additional. Please take this note. You have to write for 80 marks. Okay. Those 20 marks, you don't have to write anything additional. Rather, you just have to follow instructions. I mean, those 20 marks are given, are granted, or you can earn those 20 marks on the basis of how you follow those guidelines. I mean, every question will have a professional skill guideline that how you need to structure your answer. So if you structure the answer according to those professional skill requirements, you will be able to earn those professional skills marks. Are you clear? Are you understood, my dear? Are you understood that you have to write for 80 marks? 20 marks, there will be just instructions, guideline that you have to follow. Okay, perfect, perfect. Thank you. Okay, if still there's a question, please note down and feel free and let me know. How is the exam to be marked? There are technical marks. There are 80 marks technical for the correct use and application of syllabus knowledge. Questions, verbs will be used with each requirement, yes, to prove the student's knowledge. Different verbs like, for example, evaluate, assess, analyze, evaluate, recommend. It's very, very, you can say, rare if a question may ask you describe. Yeah, there are questions that may ask discuss, but define, no, because defining something or explaining something is basic knowledge. Explain, define, these type of verbs we don't expect at SBL level or at strategic professional level, because here it's more related to application of knowledge. Okay, these are the verbs that require application rather repetition of knowledge. Application rather repetition of knowledge. Okay, my dear, so you should be clear that SBL is application-based paper, not just simple define or explain. Okay. So these technical marks are based on how you apply knowledge. And professional skills marks, 20 marks for professional skills and competencies, which permit ACCA to examine professional and behavioral skills pervasively throughout all of the case requirements. This approach allows an assessment of the student's capabilities to demonstrate more than just their technical proficiency and how professional skills, which are deemed essential for a successful accountant and business leader in 21st century, how you apply those skills. Of course, it's all about practice. Okay. The application comes with practice. The more practice, the more understanding how to develop. It comes with practice is required. Okay. The more you practice, the more you will understand how SBL answers are developed. Now let's talk about the reasons why students fail in SBL exam. They don't follow structured approach. What is structured approach, by the way? Structured approach means when you present your thoughts, your ideas, your answer, it should follow an integrated way. Mean the different paragraphs, the different points, the different ideas that you are presenting should be linked with each other. Okay, it should not be something like scattered ideas, all those points. One example I can give you. Structured mean like if you are going to analyze external environment of the organization. So one approach of structured is use pastel factor or pastel framework. Now, pastel framework is a structured approach to tackle or to address or to handle when there is a question on external environment analysis. Yes, so pastel is a structured framework. In this way, you should understand that your answer should be a structured answer. Number two, they don't answer what is required. Rather, they write what they know. That is a common problem, typical problem, that students don't follow the question tasks, the question requirements. And of course, when the answer does not reflect what is being asked, then how we can expect the marks. Okay. This also comes with practice, of course. You read the requirements, you read the task requirements and develop answer that reflect that. Merely reproducing the knowledge by itself scores no marks in SBL unless it is applied to the scenario. So you need to learn how to apply it. Next, similarly, if you are required to discuss the benefits and the cost to the organization of investing in big data analytics, and you just present a detailed theoretical explanation of big data would not help you score any marks, as your answers do not discuss the opportunities and cost for the company. I think this is good point to explain. If there is a question on that require discuss the benefits and the cost of investing in big data for the organization, the question is benefits and cost of investing in big data analytics for the organization. Now, if the answer is developed on theoretical explanation means what is in the book, what is in the notes, that this big data analytics, this benefit, this cost, without linking, without applying, without relating this to the company, to the organization, there will be no marks. There will be very little, few marks, or okay. The reason is because you are required to discuss, because you are going to make an advice. Your answer might be used by the board, might be used by the executive team to invest in the big data. So if you are not relating this to the company, that may not be helpful. Okay. Next point. One may fail marginally between 45 and 49%. It is likely because of poor exam technique and possibly a lack of focus on demonstrating professional skills. Professional skills mean student may have not followed the professional requirements. For example, if the question asked, write memo or write let's say email or write a report, and the student has not been able to follow those report format, so this may cause the issue. Next, one may score a very low mark, perhaps only less than 25%, and if there are less than 25%, that clearly indicates lack of knowledge. That indicates that the student has not been able to apply, or the student lack the knowledge, lack of knowledge, or failing to apply the knowledge. So I hope you understand this concept, that if there are less than 25 or less than 30 marks, it clearly shows lack of knowledge and application. If the marks are between 45 and 50, here it shows that student has not been able to present that knowledge. That would be weakness on the presentation side. That would be weakness on demonstration side. A common reason of failing SBL exam is time managing failure and completing the task, perhaps missing out whole task or parts of task, or not finishing the exam. That is also a common problem. Time management. So, you have 195 minutes, and 195 minutes, as soon as you start, now the time has started decreasing. Every minute, every second is now, you can say, moving out. Okay, every second is reducing. So you need to be on top of the game from minute one. You can't wait for even 5 minutes. So you must have a plan how you are going to approach. First of all, you need to have a plan and then act on that plan without wasting, without waiting, without any further unnecessary wasting time on planning. Okay, or just like thinking. So, road to success, few points to remember, although we will be discussing all this during our practice. Few points to remember as from day one. There is no exact formula to pass SBL exam. Start preparing and planning as from day one. You have the limited time. You are going to write exam in December 2025. So you think you have a lot of time? You think you can start later? No, that is not the right way. That is not the right approach. The right approach is just today. Just today, you need to set that tone. You need to be in that mindset. That exam mindset you need to develop from today itself. To pass SBL requires you developing a particular skill. Yes, that is absolutely correct. SBL is not like other exams. Keep in mind, SBL not like other exams. This is unique exam, and this requires you develop that skill to pass SPL. To develop that skill, you need to have a right attitude, disciplined approach, well-planned study schedule as from day one, and then measure. You have a plan and measure, track your progress, how much you have prepared this week, this day. You don't have many months. Understand, July, August, September, October, November. Okay. So every weekly based, you need to have your report card. Weekly report card. How much you have progress, what you have achieved during this day, this week. Continuously broaden your knowledge of the paper and around. So the only way to get confidence is through learning and application of technical knowledge through extensive practice. Now let's talk about how I would be helping you and how I will create value. So train you how to develop a structured approach to pass the exam. Of course, this is through practice. So there will be sufficient practice, by the way, during our discourse. Okay, we will be starting with smaller activities, but later on we will be working on the long integrated case scenarios. Train you how to develop a structured approach in the developing the answers. Train you how to read the case, connect the dots information given in the scenario that will be required to develop the answer. How to read and analyze the tasks, that is also a skill itself. What is effective communication through writing? Improve your writing skill, important, because the tone, the approach that you need to develop for SBL is a skill. How to structure and draft the answer, what mistakes to avoid, that also I will be helping you, guiding you, coaching you, and time management skill that you need to develop. So these are the areas where I will be helping you. Okay, these are the important dates that you need to mark in the calendar. Okay, starting is 5th July and finishing date is 25th October. There will be 7 weeks plus 3 extra classes. These extra classes will be for practice because we will be doing many practice questions. Okay, so these 3 extra classes are scheduled for additional practice. Okay, SBL paper requires you extensive reading. Extensive reading means this is the time that you need to start broadening your approach, your concept about the world economy, the global companies, industries. Okay, so there are a few resources that you can follow. For example, there are, if you are using iPhone, then Apple Podcast is amazing resource. There are so many channels out there. So if you would like me, I can share few channels with you that you can, when you are driving or when you are going in for walk, you are going in gym. So you can, and you're during free time, you can listen to those latest podcasts. Then there are other news articles. For example, there is a Reuters.com. This is a free news website. You can download the app and you can just scroll every day, every evening, morning, what is going on and you can read those news as well, details. The Guardian is also the app you can download. This also can offer you comprehensive learning on businesses. Bloomberg News is a paid website, paid news, paid app, but you can download the app and just go through to find out what is going on in the global economy. Financial Time is also a paid website, and you can download the app and just go through the headlines, news headlines only. This can so you will have some understanding about what's going on in the global economy, companies, industries, technology, climate change, what's happening. McKinsey.com is a free resource that can offer you very comprehensive reports on the global economic situation, global landscape. BCG is also a free resource. It offers reports. Similarly, PwC also offers the research insights about the global economy and industries. Okay, so these are the few free resources, and there are a few paid resources. All right, and you can also buy weekly based Economist magazine. It's available in Mauritius, by the way. Okay, from I think you can buy it Jumbo. It's available in Jumbo, or maybe available at Bagatelle as well. Some stores would provide or sell. Okay, and that's it about our syllabus discussion. All right, is there any question so far? Hello, is there any question? As I mentioned, that you need to have a wider reading for SPL, and wider reading comes with when you read the industry news articles. This will add knowledge. This will add details. This will expand your business acumen, your commercial acumen, your awareness, your understanding. And this is the right time that you can start working on that area. Okay, so this is the volume 1 of the SBL notes. I will upload these notes on the portal where you will be able to download. Okay, let's quickly discuss a few topics before the end of today's class. So we are starting with the section C, that is strategy. After section C, we'll be going into section A, that is the leadership, and then governance, and then risk management. So starting with section C, strategy. What is a strategy? We use this word so many times, but have we ever thought about what strategy is? Strategy is a simple, but also on the other side, complicated as well. If we define strategy in a simple definition of strategy, simple definition is that strategy is a course of action. Strategy is a course of action selected by an organization to achieve its corporate vision, to achieve its corporate goals, to achieve its corporate mission. Course of action. What is course of action? Course of action means the path, the direction that the organization has selected to achieve its corporate vision, mission, or objectives or goals. That is the simplest definition. And of course, organizations choose their strategies. For example, like an auto company, like Honda, for example, it decided that it is going to merge with Nissan and Mitsubishi, because Nissan and Mitsubishi both are struggling companies. So they approach Honda to have a merge with each other. Why? Because there are many reasons. There are many explanations to this. The global economy is changing, and it is becoming difficult for smaller auto players to compete. And Honda is already leading player. Okay, one of the like in the top 5 automaker in the world. So through Mitsubishi, Nissan, and Honda, they can become more stronger. They can align their resources, they can align their skills, they can align their capabilities, and they would be able to compete on the global landscape, global economy. Okay, so this is a course of action selected by Honda, Mitsubishi, and Nissan. Similarly, like for example, another company that is a leader in the battery manufacturing, for example, Panasonic. Panasonic is one of the largest EV battery maker in the world. EV battery maker. Okay, it decided to have its new factories, battery manufacturing plants in US, for example. It decided that it is going to invest in 4 new factories in US, 1 factory in Canada, 1 factory in Mexico, 1 factory in Germany. Means it's going to start 7 factories at a time. But then it announces that no, it is going to freeze, it is going to halt, it's going to put a pause on its investments. The reason because uncertainty in electric vehicle industry. These are just 2 examples I have shared with you, explain what strategy is, course of action selected by the organization. A hotel industry, for example, like for example in Mauritius, let's say I give you example from Lux Resorts. Now Lux Resorts is one of the biggest hotel and resort company. So they decide to open Lux Cafe. Okay, Lux Cafe. Lux Cafe is at various locations in Mauritius. So why? Because they have developed all that knowledge, all that skill of offering the world-class coffee. So they decided to open Lux Cafe. That is a course of action. That is a strategy. Understand? Now, we are not talking about the like outcomes, success or failure of these strategies. We are just talking about what strategy means, course of action. Okay. Now we can explain the strategy definition in more detail as well. And this detailed definition was developed by JSW. JSW, Johnson, Scholes, or Scholes, and Whittington. Very comprehensive definition. Comprehensive. This is detailed definition of strategy. According to JSW, strategy is about direction and scope of an organization over the long term, which achieves advantages for the organization through its configuration of resources within a challenging environment to meet the needs of markets and to fulfill stakeholders' expectations. Very comprehensive definition. If we look at the different components, so I can divide this definition into different components. First of all, strategy is about direction of the organization. What is direction? What is direction? Like the example of Lux Resorts, that it entered into Lux Cafe. The reason why it entered into the Lux Cafe, because there was opportunity. Lux management, their board of directors, they found there is an opportunity to invest or develop this Lux Cafe. One more example from the like Mauritius we can discuss. Let's say Medin, for example. Medin Group is one of the leading industrial group in Mauritius. It has been, or Omnicane, for example. Omnicane. There are other groups as well, like ENL or IBL or GML. Okay. Medin, Omnicane both are operating in the sugar estates. But as the sugar landscape is changing, sugar industry has changed or changing fast. So as a result, these companies this was their core business model. Sugar was core business model. But now, as the sugar industry has changed, so these companies have to think about develop new strategies. Do you think these companies have already developed new strategies to reflect this shift in their core business model? There are rising risks in their core business model. So do you think the Omnicane or Medin Group has transformed their business model? Please quickly respond. Have they transformed? Transformation, or in other words, restructuring in their business model, like Medin Group, for example. They have entered into the real estate, let's say. They have entered into education. They have entered into retail, for example. They developed a mall. They developed like the real estates by developing the construction, villas, and the different type of property, real estate. So these are the different ways where a company would be developing its direction. This is a good example about understanding direction. Direction means how a business or a company would choose or change its direction. And scope of an organization. Scope means previously a business was doing in sugar industry, but now it has entered into education and real estate. Okay, so that is a change in the scope of its operation. Over the long term, of course, this is a long term. This is not short term. When a business is transforming from one business model, one industry to another industry, the reason because circumstances have changed, situation has changed. It's overall the strengths have changed, opportunities have changed. Okay, so they have to transform their business model, and this is all about long term, which achieve advantage for the organization. Yes, so a strategy is expected to achieve advantage for the organization. Advantage mean, what is advantage? Like competitive advantage, you can think about market leader position, or giving it a new advantage in a changing market. And how this is possible? This is possible through the configuration of resources. What are resources? Resources can be human resources, capital resources, financial resources, technology resources, okay, infrastructure resources. So all the different types of resources, how those resources are used by the organization to achieve this advantage in a challenging environment. To meet the needs of the markets, yes, needs of the markets also change. Just like as the sugar, for example, the sugar industry Sugar industry market has changed, and manufacturing sugar in Mauritius is expensive as comparison to manufacturing sugar in other countries, for example, Brazil. So Brazil is one of the leading manufacturer and producer and exporter of sugar. Okay, it's a very low cost manufacturing of sugar. But in Mauritius, the manufacturing of sugar is expensive. Understand? And also the core markets change because Mauritius was exporting, export markets changed. It was exporting to EU because of an agreement. And when that agreement that expired, the dynamics changed. Understand? So this is a good example, challenging environment to meet the needs of the markets and to fulfill the stakeholders' expectation. What are stakeholders? Like investors or shareholders expect organizations to expect the board, expect the management to be more active, to be more agile, to be more responsive. Shareholders expect, okay, they expect to change the strategy. That strategy should be more adaptive, should be more reflective of all the shifts which are happening. Got it? So, my dear, this is a very comprehensive definition of strategy. I hope you have understood. Simple definition and a detailed definition of strategy. I hope you got it. Now, the next discussion is about how to develop strategy. There are different approaches of strategy development. Here, we can discuss the 3 approaches towards strategy development quickly in a few minutes. Number 1, let's discuss in few minutes. Number 1, deliberate strategy. Number 2, emergent strategy. And number 3, incremental strategy. Deliberate strategy is more about developing a strategy from top down. Top down means this is also a formal strategic planning process. Mostly it is driven by board, initiated by board of directors. Okay, so how it works? It all start with, first of all, mission. Mission guides the strategy. Mission guides strategy. Mission is transformed into or translated into objectives, corporate objectives. So corporate objectives we establish to achieve mission. Now, how to achieve corporate objectives? We need strategies. Okay, so in order to achieve corporate objectives, we look for external analysis, internal analysis, and stakeholders analysis, the 3 types of analysis. External analysis offers us opportunities and threats which are shifting, which are changing in the external environment. Internal analysis or internal appraisal helps us to understand what are our strengths and weaknesses. And number 3, stakeholders analysis. This helps us to understand who are our stakeholders, what are their expectations, what are their interests, what are their claims. Okay, so what are their, for example, like what they expect from us, who are they, what is their power. So all this we need to find out in the stakeholders analysis. Understand, after this, external analysis, internal analysis, and stakeholders analysis, we will have now in a position to look for what options we have available, what options we have to choose from. Okay, here we make a strategic choice from options. Choice means we make the most suitable, most appropriate choice. Okay, once the choice is selected, this is time to implement the strategy. So this is overall, if you look at this, is a step-by-step approach. Step-by-step approach towards strategy development. This is called top-down, or this is called formal or deliberate strategic process. I hope you have understood this one. Number two approach or number two method of strategy development is emergent strategy. Emergent strategy, unlike top-down approach, emergent strategy works differently. Here, in emergent strategy, the lower level management or operational management, the more suitable term we use, operational management is encouraged to come up with new ideas. Operational management is encouraged to develop new ideas, and those ideas are converted into new strategies. For example, because operational management is more close to the customers, operational management is more close to the markets, okay? Especially in global companies. Global companies or multinational companies where head office might be thousands kilometers away, local management in better position, local management in better position to understand local customers and markets. So when they are in a better position to understand local customers and local markets, they would be able to launch products or better strategies. This is one way to look at the emergent strategy. Number two way to look at the emergent strategy is strategy. This strategy emerges from changing external landscape or external environment. Okay, so this strategy emerges from fast changing the external environment. For example, like technology. Example, new technologies. When the new technologies are emerging, for example, e-commerce. Okay, increasingly companies are now adopting to these new technologies, and this offers new opportunities. Offers new opportunities to compete and operate in new markets. When a company is going online, e-commerce offers new customers and new markets. But the challenges here, the dynamics are different. Challenges, dynamics, operating dynamics. One more thing that you need to learn is learn about these technical jargons, the technical terms that I am using. You also need to understand what are the meaning of these, because the more use of these technical terms in your writing, it will be more impactful. Okay. Operating dynamics, different, that will require companies to adjust their strategies, adjust their strategies. One example I can share, for example, Amazon store. Now, you know, all these big brands, Adidas, Nike, Levi's, or Zara, all these have their stores on Amazon. And do you know their pricing strategies are different? Okay, their product and pricing strategies are different. So there is a lesson for us that when we are competing on a platform, the competition is different. Okay, nature, here is a lesson for us. Nature of competition would be different on platforms. So this same goes when, like, for example, booking.com. Another example, booking.com. Booking.com is a website. It's a platform where hotels, airlines, we can book tickets. But the pricing is different on the booking.com as comparison to if we are booking the same hotel, same airline through their website. So this is another interesting point. Anyway, this explains the whole discussion of emergent strategy. As I mentioned, that emergent strategy is the one that emerges from the external environmental changes. And the precondition for emergent strategy is culture of the organization, curiosity in the organization, and the empowerment that is required, because here the opportunities sometimes might be identified by operational management rather than the top management. So importance of culture, curiosity, and empowerment are important components of emergent strategy. And my dear, number 3 is called incremental strategy. Incremental strategies, by the way, is now an outdated approach towards strategy. Outdated, the reason, because incremental strategy focuses on making small, gradual changes to existing strategy. And we know we are living in 2025, where era of disruption is there. And disruption requires disrupt your business model. So if a business is continuously competing with its old strategy, there would be high risk for going out of the business. The reason because the fundamentals of competitive advantage change very fast. Competitive advantage change. Okay. And if a business is continuously relying on, so living in the past, there are many words we can use. Living in the past, success, victim of own success, and many other terms we can use here. Because incremental strategy, where the management leadership, the mindset would be that we have been successful in the past and we will be successful in the future. That may not work. Okay. And we have so many examples of companies that failed with their incremental strategy. Examples of companies of failed companies. There are so many companies. Latest, I can tell you, latest is one of the biggest company in Canada, like once the biggest company, Hudson Bay, for example. It has gone out of business, bankrupted. Recently, it has got bankrupted. If you want me to give the examples from previous companies, Nokia is a very classic example of this becoming victim of their own success. Once Nokia was one of the leading company. In 2010, Nokia was the biggest company in the mobile phone industry. And today, in 2024, even after just 5 years, in 2015, within 5 years, Nokia lost most. And now we are in 2025. Imagine how the dynamic is the operating environment. There's a term we use in the incremental strategy is called strategic drift. The problem is that those companies that follow incremental strategy, they would face the risk of having strategic drift. Strategic drift means this is lack of strategic direction, because companies following its conventional thinking, conventional business strategy, and not challenging, not disrupting its strategy. So what would happen? Slowly, it may lose its direction and ending into strategic drift situation. Okay, so once strategic drift hits, it might be very difficult to get out of that situation. Okay, so we need to do a research now, how to get out of this situation, how to get out of strategic drift. Anyway, we will continue these discussions in our next classes. And this is all from our today class. I hope you have understood the SBL paper, syllabus discussion, and my style of teaching as well, that how I will be leading this course, how I will be teaching, how I will be like discussing. Okay, I encourage my students, and I hope you will definitely be having participation in the class discussion, because this is the way we can make the class more interesting. We can make the class more lively when there's a communication on the both sides. Okay, if just I am discussing, speaking, then I may look like AI because in AI there's just one way of communication, but we have human interaction, live human interaction. Okay, where we will be having a lot of discussions and interesting analysis. So that's all from this class. Thank you very much for joining today. And I hope you like the session and you find it interesting. Okay, that's all. And I look forward to see you on next Saturday with a lot of discussions and learnings. These notes will be available on the platform where you will be able to download. Okay, and those slides as well, introductory class slides, and these notes will be there for you to download. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, wonderful afternoon, wherever you are, and I look forward to see you on next Saturday. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.